I mean, the cheapest way is to steal a blanket from a baby, but if you want a little more nuance than that, you're gonna have to stick around. Now, PJs. Pajama jams. Pajamas. So soft.
So cozy. So comfy.
So casual. So... Every single sewing YouTuber has already made a tutorial on this. Okay, hear me out though. Those are tutorials usually made for first or second time sewers who don't really know what they're doing. We're taking it up a notch. The mission here is to make the comfiest possible PJ bottoms for the least amount of money. And you may be asking, how do we do that? Double gauze and some skill. Pros. It's soft as hell. It's breathable. It's light and fluffy like... Rude. It is light and fluffy like a pancake. Cons. It's expensive. It is the non-Newtonian liquid of fabrics. It stretches like a knit, but it frays like a woven. It's not very strong. Did I mention it was expensive? When your average length of cotton double gauze costs you about $20 a meter at your average fabric store, you gotta get creative. And by get creative, I mean go thrift shopping. I recently thrifted these two baby blankets for a total of $11. It ranges store to store and sometimes blanket to blanket. Lowest, I've seen them go for about $3. Highest could be upwards of $7. That's a bougie store, or somebody has got ideas about how much they want to make that day. Each of these blankets is approximately 1 yard of 60-inch wide fabric. I'm quite partial to the confetti. I'm gonna try and get everything I can out of this, make the entire pair of PJ bottoms out of this, and use the monkeys only where I have to. Partly it's because I really love the confetti, but mostly it's because I'm very afraid of monkeys. I don't like their eyes. In general, I think baby items at the thrift store are a really underutilized section. Babies grow so fast, and people are more than willing to donate if they don't have a friend they can give their stuff as a hand-me-down to, because they need to make room for all the new stuff their slightly larger child, who's going to be even larger soon, now needs. So yes, thrifting baby items for your own end might feel like you're stealing from a needy infant, but in my experience, baby blankets especially don't really sell all that fast. Mostly because, maybe they have a little stain, or people are just afraid of the ever-present baby germs. Realistically, it's nothing that a little disinfectant in the wash can't fix. And if you want to avoid stains, you can always thread mark around them before you cut. It's not that difficult. By thrifting double gauze in the form of baby blankets, you will be stuck with whatever designs for babies are popular at the time, but A, some of those designs are really cute. B, dye exists, and if you're getting cotton, which I highly recommend, you can dye them easily. And C, they're just pajama pants. They're just, if this was your prom dress, I get it. But this is PJs. What matters is being comfy. Before we cut, to make my life easier, I'm ironing out all of my double gauze. It's not a perfect system, but I find it smooths out the creases and also allows you to work with a more firm woven than a stretch fabric. With that in mind, it will go back to its original form when you wash it, so if you're going to do this too, err on the larger side when you choose your pattern. Not hugely, but enough that you'll still be comfortable when it's shrunk a bit. Let's talk design. To get these bad boys to fit on that first blanket, I'm going to trace out this McCall's pattern and make some adjustments. I've made this pattern before, so I know I'm going to have to make a petite adjustment. And I'm also going to need to cut the pants off at about the knee to fit it on the blanket. While I'm here, for extra comfort and convenience, I'm giving these a pair of pockets as well. I'm just tracing them from a different pants pattern, so they may not match perfectly.
McCall's pull front. Red says 12.
Now, if you're looking at this measly yard and thinking, Grace, that's fine for your tiny butt, but I'm thick with at least 3 C's, I have good news for you. You can absolutely still do this. It'll just take some pattern blocking. If you'll kindly regard these PJ pants, you'll get an idea of what that looks like. All it takes is 2 blankets, and not only will you have a very cute design, it will be 100% unique. I mean, bask, won't you? Even if you have to go all the way up to 4 blankets to make it fit for you, you're still looking at roughly $20 for 4 yards of double gauze. Pretty impressive. Despite all that prep, I still managed to cut it a little sloppy style. The pockets are a must because I'm a firm believer that all pants should have pockets. But the top stitching here really highlights the finickiness of the double gauze. It hides the monkey fabric well, but at a bacony, these are gonna look a little bit silly cost. Another way we're going to make this extra comfy is seam finishes. Are you familiar with my good friend flat-felled seam? If you've got a sensory thing about the seams of your clothes, the flat-felled seam holds the excess fabric down like it's not even there. It understands you don't have time to obsess over itchy thread or seam allowances flip-flopping around against your skin. It says, shh, baby, don't worry. We're hiding all of that on the outside and top stitching it in place. I did this both on the inseams and the crotch seam. First, you sew your seam wrong sides together. Then, you iron open your seam. To keep it from being too bulky, I trimmed down one of the sides by half. Then, I folded the longer seam allowance down, enveloping the seam, and I ironed it in place. I popped in a few pins and stitched it all down. A boom bam, baby! Look how comfy and neat that finish is. And strong, too. We do have to talk about some of the drawbacks to thrift store double gauze, which became abundantly clear to me as I was working on the outer seams. We're making a beautiful meal out of the cheaper meats, and you can't really do that without some elbow grease. The thread count on double gauze is pretty low to begin with. Add some baby use to that, and you're gonna find the frayability of that bad boy, it's gonna be high. I trust the flat-felled seam as it's really packing the fabric in and catching it in 2 different stitch lines. I took a different approach with the outer seams. One might say a coward's approach. On top of a French seam, I zigzagged them all the way down. Is it overkill? Maybe. But I know that that fabric isn't going anywhere. Now until the end of time. Let's try that again. For the waistband, I measured the circumference on the top of my pants and cut the excess off. I measured my elastic, this one was a 1/2 inch wide. I doubled that, and then added a teeny bit of wiggle room and seam allowance, getting 2.5 inches for the full width. I trimmed it down under the watchful eye of my supervisor and added some interfacing where the holes for the drawstring would go. She very sagely advised me to use the finished edge for the inside of my waistband, so I wouldn't have to zigzag it after I sewed it down. I marked off my holes and used my very fancy buttonhole foot to make the holes for my drawstring. I sewed the waistband on right sides together, pressed that excess up into the waistband, trimmed it to reduce bulk, and sewed that finished edge down from the outside. I snaked my elastic and drawstring through with a safety pin, and all that was left was to hem. Just because we were playing a bit of Calvin ball with the original pattern, I honestly just turned up the bottom edge by about a ½ inch twice and sewed it down. Let's check out the results, shall we? You can fit so many trinkets and treasures and who's-its and what's-its and even just like your hands in these bad boys. I am so excited for them to join the PJ rotation. They comfortably sit just above the widest part of my hip without having to tie them up. If I do tie them up, they sit well on my waist, which to me is the perfect comfy level. You want the security of knowing they're not going to fall down if you don't tie them up, but you also want the flexibility of knowing that you can eat a whole lasagna by yourself, and no matter how bloated your tummy is, your pajamas aren't going to cut into it. I hope this inspired some of your own machinations of optimal PJ pants on a budget. Do you have your own nefarious and comfy schemes after this? Do they involve a honk and, dare I say, a shoe? Perhaps a snork? Me. Either way, I want to hear about it. Tell me down below, especially if you've got ideas to make these even comfier. If you've got more cozy plots, I highly recommend hitting subscribe and sticking around. Now go get snuggled up. I want to see you back here with a teddy bear and some warm milk in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're still here. The video already ended. How are you still here? My God, at least click on something else, won't you?